What's going on, guys? So right now, I'm absolutely inconsolable. This news broke around midnight last night, and I didn't get any sleep. I've been just steady crying the whole night, but it is news that Blake Bortles has officially retired from the NFL. Blake Bortles was the number 3 overall draft pick for the Jacksonville Jaguars in 2014. I have a very emotional attachment to him. Um, in all seriousness, when I was a sophomore at UCF, the Jaguars drafted Blake Bortles. And I know for me, with my UCF history, I got into the school in 2012, not really expecting anything football wise. I was going to continue to be a Gator fan. But then slowly, UCF just got a lot better at football. They started off in Conference USA. Then my second year at school, they went to the AAC, and yeah, the AAC, and then they won their first year in there. They went like 12-1. They won the Fiesta Bowl, and then the quarterback of the team, Blake Bortles, wound up getting drafted by my favorite NFL team. And I know for me, if you look in the back, I got this picture back here. It basically shows like my favorite player from each era of Jaguars football. From Fred Taylor to Maurice Jones-Drew to Blake Bortles to Trevor Lawrence. I know there's a lot of Blake Bortles kind of has a love-hate relationship amongst the Jaguars fan base. I know a lot of people, dislike him because if we're being real, he wasn't a very good quarterback. But I know from my perspective, if you're like me, I'm a 28-year-old guy. I didn't grow up really understanding football in the 90s. In 1999, I was 6 years old. So back then, I didn't really get to enjoy the Jaguar football. Then when the Jaguars, with Garrard beat the Steelers in the playoffs, I was in like 7th or 8th grade. So I understood what was going on. I was watching the game. I remember watching the game at my house. But, I'm not sitting there. I can't name off every offensive lineman. I'm not entrenched with the Jaguars, team as much as I am now. And then later on in 2012, when I moved over to Orlando, that's when I really, really got entrenched with the Jaguars. Because, when you're in Jacksonville, you're around the Jaguars all the time. And then you go away from Jacksonville. And then with me becoming less of a Gator fan, Jacksonville is like my connection back home. So really, I started really following the Jaguars. 2012 was when Mike Mularkey was here. And then, boom, they got rid of him. And then they cleaned house. They cleaned everybody, got rid of everybody on the roster, basically. It was like Dave Caldwell and Gus Bradley. And I was like, okay, we're starting fresh. Brand new team. This is a pretty cool time right now. And then, Blake Bortles got drafted, my sophomore year. And then, really, Blake Bortles, the big reason why I like him is, one, he's led the Jaguars to the farthest I've ever seen the Jaguars. AFC Championship game. And a lot of people thought that, oh my gosh, they're going to lose. They're not going to go anywhere because of Blake Bortles. Well, in that playoff run, the Blake Bortles didn't turn the ball over. Blake Bortles wasn't the reason for us not being able to reach a Super Bowl. Maybe the presence of him, but it was the coaching staff. The coaching staff played extremely conservative down the stretch. And it's just a coaching staff full of conservative people. Doug Marrone is conservative. Nate Hackett, you're seeing, him as a head coach right now. He was the OC for the Jaguars. Him as a Denver Broncos head coach, very conservative. He's just the Jaguars in that Patriots game. Run the ball, punt. And then you also saw Todd Wash in the defense. Prevent. Look, you have a 10-point lead on the Patriots in the fourth quarter. But the Patriots also have Tom Brady. These elite quarterbacks, you can't give them that much time, and it's in Foxborough. So it was a recipe for disaster. So, maybe the Jaguars, they had a different quarterback, they would call it different, but really the coaching staff really let down that team. So with Blake Bortles, he wasn't, he had his ups and downs that year. His down the stretch, during the month of December, he really took the team over the top. And even during the Steelers game, he was really good in the Steelers game. And he was also really good in the Patriots game until they stopped letting him throw the ball. So, yeah, Blake Bortles, and another big thing about him was that, he seemed like he was just a Duval man. Like, he really captured the, like the personality of our fan base. You know, he's not a big city guy. He's like a Southern boy. He seems like he was a super relatable guy. He really was. He wasn't out here doing all these commercials. He wasn't, I don't know, like him in his press conferences, he was a pretty funny guy without even really trying to be, kind of a dry humor guy. And he just never complained. He never talked all this bad stuff about the Jaguars. I don't know. It was just, it was a little bit emotional, but then it didn't work out. You know, in 2018, they gave him an extension, and he was just pretty awful. 2018, a big part of that was on him, and then just the way the roster was constructed. You know, you see the way, the Jaguars were really relying on the defense to be able to carry us once again. But if you're seeing right now, rosters turn over so much. And it's just how you come over that. Like, if you look at the Eagles right now, this roster for the Eagles is so much different than 2017. But they turned out they didn't have the right quarterback. They took their lumps when it comes to record-wise. But look, they're right back. They're right back, similar to where they were 5 years ago, but it's a completely different roster. They have a new quarterback with Jalen Hurts, new coaching staff. They have, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith weren't there, a bunch of the star players on the defense. So, but what's really going to stay consistent when you want to have a good team is quarterback. Quarterback is a big thing. That's why you're seeing Patrick Mahomes there in the playoffs every year. You're going to see Josh Allen in the playoffs a bunch every year. Rosters turn over, but you need to have consistency with the head coach, coaching staff, as well as with the quarterback. And that's what we're hoping the Jaguars have right now. You have a good feeling that we have the right coaching staff in place, especially a head coach. But do the Jaguars have the right quarterback? I know I have a lot of belief in him. And look, Trevor Lawrence definitely has the opportunity, and he's going to get his time. He's not he doesn't have like a Carson Wentz mindset or a mindset of a guy that's like, okay, this guy's a cancer, we need to get him out of here. But Trevor Lawrence still needs to prove a lot, But this isn't a Trevor Lawrence video. This is more of a Blake Bortles video. So, yeah, I know me for myself, definitely an emotional connection to Blake Bortles. One of my favorite Jaguar players of all time, one of my favorite UCF players of all time, because it really felt like he put my school on the map, and he kind of, gave us the road to success when it comes to, having two more power or group, whatever you call it, New Year's Six Bowl visits, also multiple conference titles. And then now you look at UCF and look, we are next year would be playing in the Big 12, and Blake Bortles is one of those guys that really helped pave the way. So happy retirement to Blake Bortles. I believe he's actually still living in the Jacksonville area. I wonder what he decides to do with his future. Maybe he's invested his money wisely. Maybe he's going to sit happy the rest of his life. Maybe he tries to do some stuff for Barstool Sports. We'll see. But shout out to Blake. Happy retirement. Thanks for everything you did for the Jaguars. I know there's probably mixed emotions. Some people hate him. He wasn't the guy that drafted himself number 3 overall. He wasn't the guy that gave himself a contract extension. So, yeah. Shout out to Blake Bortles. Happy retirement. Go Jags.